Welcome to the Edition Wars podcast, where we discuss RPG ideas, compare rules, establish sacred cows, fight about what's best, and generally geek out over our favorite games. I'm Brandon Stoddard.
And I'm Sam Dillon. And in this episode, we are discussing XP, experience points. How do we level up? What is it that we need? What is the goal of this game? What is the goal of the game?
Well, from what I understand, experience points are how a game tells you what the game is about. I have some quibbles with that, in part because it takes its assumption that gaining levels is the point of the game, but okay. Now, since I'm the one of us who has never played AD&D, I hope you'll start us off with exactly how experience points worked in the first of all editions that we don't call first edition. We call it OD&D.
Yes. So here's how they worked. So remember zeroth edition only had a few sorts of things that you could do. You could be a fighting man, you could be a magic user, you could be a cleric. And experience points were necessary to go up, to level up, basically, to gain extra powers or extra abilities, okay? And I'll just talk about the fighting man one real quick. They named the level, so it wasn't level 1, level 2, level 3. It was, if you were a fighting man, first level fighting man was a veteran, and you started with 0 experience points, and then a warrior would be a second level, and that you needed to earn 2,000 experience points to get to that point. You had to earn 2,000 more and get to 4,000 experience to be third level, which was called a swordsman. And then after that, you became a hero, and that cost 8,000 experience. I say cost, you're not really spending them. It took 8,000. You had to earn 8,000 experience points. Then 16, then 32. So you're seeing a pattern here. It doubles every time for the fighting man. Magic users, same thing, except you start out with 0 XP, and to get to second level, which is a seer, 2,500 XP. And then to get to the next level, 5,000, and the next level, 10,000. So also doubles, but the baseline to get to second level is higher. Clerics, same thing, except the baseline is lower. To get to second level, it costs 1,500, or you have to earn 1,500. And then the next level is village priest, that's 3,000 experience. The next level is vicar, that's 6,000. So basically the idea was, in order to level up, you just needed to gain twice as many experience points as you needed for the previous level up. Also, there was no real limit on levels for humans. There's no theoretical limit, so you can progress beyond 20th or 25th or whatever level, and that's possible within the rules, although I'm not sure how common that was ultimately. And basically what it says about experience points is this. Experience points are awarded to players by the referee. Remember, they weren't even calling us dungeon masters at that point. It was just the referee, with appropriate bonuses or penalties for prime requisites. Remember, if you had a high enough score in your prime requisite ability related to your class, you would get an extra 5 or 10% added to your experience. It says, as characters meet monsters in Mortal Kombat and defeat them, and when they obtain various forms of treasure, money, gems, jewelry, magical items, etc., they gain experience. This adds to their experience point total, gradually moving them upwards through the levels. Gains in experience points are relative, thus an 8th level magic user operating on the 5th dungeon level would be awarded 5/8 experience, because they're on the 5th level and they're 8th level themselves. Let's assume they get 7,000 gold pieces by defeating a troll. That's a 7th level monster. But if it was a 5th level, so let me stop there and point out the 3 things of the reason I'm reading this to you. Prime requisite scores, if you're better at your prime requisite, if you naturally have a better prime requisite, so for Fighting Man, that's strength. If you have a good strength attribute, you're going to earn more experience just for doing the same thing as compared to a Fighting Man without a high strength score. Secondly, you earn XP for defeating a monster and for obtaining treasure. And third, where you are in the dungeon affects how much experience you can possibly earn related to your level. So you can't be a 5th level magic user, for example, running around the first level of a dungeon and earning full experience. You're only going to earn 1/5 experience at that point. In other words, there was an attempt there to try to imply a sort of balance between, well, let me put it this way. As you go up in level and you gain power and you gain the ability to cast better spells and wield your weapons better and defend yourself better, you're supposed to be going deeper down in a dungeon level and defeating more fearsome foes that are also harder to kill or defeat or distract or whatever, however it is that you're going to steal their loot. You're supposed to be increasing the challenges that you face. And if you don't increase the challenges you
Right.
face, you don't get full XP.
Right. And it's absolutely the same as um, in an MMO when something is weaker than you, you receive less
Hmm.
experience from
Right.
the kill uh, because Gygax was clearly pretty concerned about people just wasting whole sessions on
Hmm.
XP farming. Like that's clearly the motivating thought there. Uh, and I mean, it's funny because in games that are still sort of descended from
Hmm.
D&D, they're not tabletop games typically. That farming is a huge and expected area of gameplay,
Right. Right. Yeah,
right?
for sure.
I'm thinking of World
Hmm.
of Warcraft. Like the number of hours you're going to spend farming XP is going to be an enormous part of the game.
Well, and any kind of EverQuest, any kind of MMO, but also, for example, JRPGs, right? So, Final Fantasy, sort of compute that sort
Yep.
of other types of, non-MMO computer games that are fantasy based. A lot of them had a sort of grinding area, right? Like you get to a certain level and you really need to level up again, or you really need to gain some kind of ability by getting more experience before you can actually meet that next challenge. And so you're just grinding and killing, whatever thing is that is around that you can, consistently with some regularity know that you're going to not really put your life in danger and you're just doing that for the XP. Like that, Gygax wanted to stop that,
Yep.
right? He didn't want that to be the case.
Yep. Yep. He wasn't interested in letting players minimize risk and sort of waste his time on things that weren't going to entertain him as a DM. Like I don't blame him.
Hmm.
It's not
Right.
fun in itself. It's deliberately repetitive and like yeah, it's not something you want in a tabletop game.
And so if we move on to the Holmes Basic Edition, which is the sort of next the sort of first basic, but really remember this is the one that it's really just the first 3 levels of AD&D, and once you hit those levels, then it tells you that you should move on to AD&D. You're done with basic. Um, and here's what it says. Let me see if I can find it. It says accumulated experience is measured by experience points. Experience points are awarded on the basis of treasure obtained and monsters killed or subdued. Experience for treasure recovered is on the basis of 1 point for every gold piece. You convert jewelry, gems, and etc. into gold piece value. and treasure is usually divided equally among members of the party, and therefore experience is also divided equally among members of the party. If for some reason one character gets more of the loot, such as a thief stealing gems from saddlebags on the way home, then he or that player, that character, should get the additional experience points because theoretically they used the skill to do it where nobody would notice. Monsters overcome or killed by magic or wits are worth experience points to be divided among the entire party. In other words, you don't so there's sort of a double standard here. If the thief can pull it off and steal something and you don't realize it, the thief gets all the experience for that. However,
Yep.
if the magic user casts the most awesome spell ever and destroys an entire group of monsters and so saves the party the trouble of having to fight those monsters or possibly getting killed or paralyzed or whatever, those XP are split amongst the group. We don't just give the wizard that XP. And likewise, if a fighting man or an elf or something comes along and they kill a bunch of creatures, everyone gets to split that, right? And if one of the people in the party happens to be, very tactically minded and goes through and is able to steal the gold, steal the loot from this creature without the party having to face it, it doesn't matter that one person planned that whole thing. If they pull it off, it's for the benefit of the entire party, and the entire party gets to split that XP from treasure, unless it's a thief and they say they're doing it on their own without telling anyone. And so
Yeah,
that's
I have a
but
hard time seeing how that would ever like inspire bad behavior.
yeah,
I'm sure
right,
that would
right.
never lead to
Yes.
bad behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's try to moderate our bad behavior by saying you don't get full experience unless you're on the level that's the same challenge as you. But here we're going to let this thief basically be a thief and do what they want. And
Yeah,
but we're not supporting in-party fighting. But anyway,
yeah,
the next thing I want to point out about this is that this has a nice little. I mean, there's one in the OE edition as well, but this one happens to be right in front of me. So it shows you the experience points for the monsters that you have overcome and what you get. And so, challenge rating isn't a thing yet. Instead, we go by the monster's hit dice. So the
hmm,
higher the hit dice, the more powerful, the more challenging that creature is. And so, for example, a monster with one hit die is worth 10 experience points. If they happen to have a special ability, you can add 3 to that, so they might be worth 13 experience. Now remember, this experience is being split amongst
yeah,
all of the party. So if
yeah,
you fight 3 one-hit dice creatures, you earn 30 experience points, and there's 5 of you, so you all just earned 6 experience. Not much. Not much.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
that's
so the
real thin.
Right. So there's a reason for that though. The reason for that is that the idea was to use your brains to try to not fight the creatures. The goal wasn't really go forth and kill these creatures. Now, sometimes there was a quest or something, go kill the dragon, go kill the troll, go kill the ogre that's harassing the town. Sometimes there was a quest, right? Go get the sheep back, from the Cyclops or whatever. There was a goal. But in general, when you're playing, the idea is to get experience in the least dangerous way possible. The least dangerous way to get experience is sneak in, steal the treasure, only fight when you have to, and get the heck out. And when you've got that treasure, because you get 1 gold, you get 1 XP per gold, that's worth a lot. That you could fight 3 or 4 one-hit die creatures, which, one hit die doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're third level and they're doing 1d8 damage per swing if they hit you with their sword or whatever, you could die in a couple of hits, if not one hit.
Yep,
And so it's maybe more challenging even to try to find a way around it and to not face that creature uh, uh, head first, right? You want to try to work your way around, because if you can steal 1,000 gold out of the chest behind them, you just earned 250 gold for you and the other 3 members of your party. Or even if there's 10 of you, you just earned 100 gold for all 10 of you. So that's 100 XP. That's way better than the 6 XP you would have earned if you fought 5 of those creatures, right?
yep.
So there was a real incentive to not necessarily face creatures head on and to actually try to find a way to get the treasure and the loot and not fight the creature. I will say that in this edition as well, there's this idea of trying to match the challenge. So it says, oh, if the defeated monster is lower level than the character who overcame them, then less experience is gained. Experience points for the kill are multiplied by a fraction. Because that creature's less challenging. So they're still sticking with that idea. Now, here's the thing: that gold for XP style of play persists for quite a long time, and uh, it lends itself to a certain style of play, and that certain style of play has some really huge benefits. For example, the idea of trying to strategically plan. Notice I say strategic, not tactical, right? Strategically
Right.
plan to sneak into the giant's lair and avoid all of the actually dangerous creatures in every, use your brain to try to avoid everything that could possibly get you caught. Not just a simple stealth roll. Oh, you made too much noise, you're caught. But actually try to plan, drop diagrams, try to sneak in, try to time things perfectly, have an escape plan if so and so gets seen. Here's what we're all going to do, that sort of thing. That kind of teamwork planning that it implies is necessary. And that's all excellent. And then there's the other side, the other extreme of that. So that what I just described is great. It makes the game great fun. It puts a focus on the game that is about trying to outsmart the game. You're trying to outsmart the referee. You're trying to outsmart the monster. You're trying to outsmart your own character. You're trying to make your own character better using your own modern day wits to do something that gets you that treasure without having to face that troll's sword. Okay. Then there's the other side of it. And the other side of it is, well, if gold is worth XP, I'm going to take that vase and that tapestry and this rug, and I'm going to try to find a way to get a winch in here and some kind of a pulley system so I could take that statue, and then I'm going to climb up there and I'm going to pull all these gems off of the crown molding up here. Heck, just take the whole crown molding. I don't even need to dig the gems out. And we're going to basically rob this entire dungeon of everything in it that could have any possible value, and we're going to Monty Hall this thing right out, and we're going to sell it at the market, and we get a XP per gold. I didn't even have to talk to, we came in and we started stripping the dungeon down. The goblins were so freaked out they left, and we just took all their money and went off, and suddenly I'm 17th level, that sort of thing. I'm of course exaggerating, but I'm not
Well,
exaggerating
and
that
that
much.
assumes and that assumes that you decide that the goblins are the ones with the treasure that you can most easily seize, and
Right.
not the people in the village,
Right. Well, and that's the other. Yes, I didn't even go to
or
that extreme, right?
or
Yeah.
that king over there who happens to not be a wizard.
Right.
Sure, he's nice to
Right.
you and he's a
Yes.
perfectly fine king, but he does have all the money.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And he only has a few guards guarding all that money, and they can be bribed. Um, or hello, charm person.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's not that high of a level spell. So yeah, it had certain issues. It had certain issues that persists through the rest of basic D&D. So the BECMI system that I often talk about. So basically, so Zero Edition had it, Holmes Basic had it, BX, that is Moldvay Cook, had it. The Mensa Red Box and the entire BECMI line, the red, blue, teal, black, gold, right? All of those, they had it. And first edition had it.
Yep. Um, so once we get to first edition, uh, in this case, I
Hmm.
have the DMG open in my lap,
I'm shocked.
um, and so well, I mean, why even
Right.
inherit all of this from my father-in-law if I'm not gonna
Yeah.
use it for a podcast. I mean, good heavens. Um, so it's exactly as you say that gold pieces convert to experience points. Um, and there's a whole thing in here. Is a clause about if the guardian was relatively weaker, award XP on a sliding scale, maybe costing 4 or more gold pieces for 1 XP according to the relative strengths. Um, and it's really just another way to say, okay, once you reach mid to high levels, don't go around rolling kobolds for the off chance that the DM will roll well on the loot table and you'll wind up with 1,000 gold piece gem that this kobold happened to have,
Mm-hmm.
because that's boring. Um, and so there's all of that. Then there's a fairly involved XP table having to do with it's a basic XP value, an XP per hit point, a special ability XP bonus, which gets its own acronym, the SAXPB, and then the Exceptional Ability XP Edition, the EAXPA. Well, I'm pretty sure I last saw that on my 1040 form. So um, that's a thing. But where it gets really interesting um, is on the next page for gaining experience levels. So in this, Gary has decided to do 2 things. One, he wants to get the timeline to advance, uh,
Mm-hmm.
so that he can justify the dungeon restocking a bit when the players go back. So he wants to slow them down with training time, right? So you might be
Mm-hmm.
training for many weeks, um, just weeks upon weeks, and that's going to cost money to do all that training. So that's a big part of your loop becomes uh, earn the money to gain the XP, earn the money to spend the XP on actually cementing that level. Uh, but the other thing that Gary wants to do is that he wants to build himself a stick to hit disruptive players with. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's a system of uh, rating the role play, um, ESF or P, and that then is a multiplier for how long you're going to spend in training, and the whole time you're spending training, you're hemorrhaging money, just enormous
Mm-hmm.
piles of money um, are going out the door uh, every single week of training, and the more of a jerk you've been at the table, and the less you've played your character and your alignment very specifically in the examples here around how Gary thought a character of that class should be. Um, it's not we're not yet talking about sort of personal characterization. It's much more about the characterization of that class, if you see what I mean. Um, the longer
Yep.
it's going to take, and the more punitive it's all going to feel. Um,
So, and also let me just point out in that section, you know, he has this sentence in caps that says, it says experience points are an indicator of the character's progress in his or her chosen profession. And then in all caps, upward progress is never automatic.
yep.
And just because this Nell Nimblefingers, rogue of the Thieves Guild, has managed to acquire 1,251 experience, does not, in all caps, mean that she suddenly becomes Nell Nimblefingers the Footpad. The gaining of sufficient experience is necessary to indicate that they are eligible.
Yeah.
The actual award is a matter for you. And then it talks about like rating all of these. Oh, it's what's funny too. The actual player's handbook has an entire huge section on experience as well. The 1E player's handbook, and it talks about, you know, let me find it here. It's like, it's giving these examples of how you award experience. And it says, oh, a cleric's major aims are to use their spell abilities to aid during any given encounter. The fighters aim to engage in combat, magic users aim to cast spells, thieves aim to make a gain by stealth, monks aim to use their unusual talents to become successful. If characters gain treasure by pursuit of their major aims, then they are entitled to a full share. So not anything extra. Just that's the baseline, right? So like you said, he's got these ideas of what is the ideal way to play that character, that class of character. And if you play that character class properly based on his, estimation, then you can get full experience
Yep.
points. But if not, there are a multitude of ways to decide to remove those experience points from the portion that you get.
So there's another amazing span of all caps text on this page. Um,
Is this in the
yeah.
DMG?
This is back on good
Yeah.
old page 86. Once a character has points which are equal to or greater than the minimum number necessary to move upwards in experience level, no further experience points can be gained until the character actually gains the new level.
Right,
How
right.
how do you plan
Yes.
your adventures around making sure you land on exactly the right number and don't waste hundreds or thousands of experience points? And also,
Well,
how does that even connect to money? Like,
well,
should you
yeah,
leave it
and
on
you
the
and
floor
and you
and come back and get it?
that's yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. Bury it. But see, once it's in your possession, that's you get the XP for it. So, but see,
You make
that's
one of your party members take possession of it. That's the trick. Only one person is
yeah.
missing
Well,
out on tens of thousands of experience points.
true.
Yeah.
Yes, you make the thief steal
No,
it.
no, not the thief. No, not the thief. The thief has a very fast experience table. So the thief would be missing
Right,
the most XP. No, you need the wizard
right.
to take
That's
it.
yeah. Well, so here's my thing though. These are just all ways. It's the same thing where okay, all this means is you earn enough to get to the next level. Now everything stops until you waste all that money on training.
Well, because I'm very good at podcasting, you're gonna have to imagine Eddie Murphy tapping his temple as the meme I'm using here. All right, I'm very good at podcasting, y'all. Uh,
Mhm. Mhm.
so yeah, like this is just such a classic kind of. Uh, Gary loved his players, but was also real fed up with them. Just real fed up, and I
Mhm.
can understand that. Um, so uh, at this point, I wanted to talk a little bit about how the idea of gold for XP got borrowed by Boffer LARPing and got turned into sort of a core element of play in a totally different gaming medium that was, believe me, still lifting everything from D&D that was not nailed down. Um, so, um, so the situation was that they were trying to figure out how to distribute experience points to players, and so uh, originally, uh, monsters would carry what they called eep chits, experience point chits, that players would gather from fighting the monster. Uh, the problem is the person who searches the monster, whoever was up in the monster's face actually stabbing it,
Gets the chip.
uh, gets
Right.
all of the stuff. So your ranged spellcasters and your healers are coming up real cold until the eep chits start getting handed around, which might or might not happen. Uh, so they looked at this problem and said, okay, fine, we'll do away with the eep chits because these are in danger of becoming the game's currency anyway, and we'll just have the monsters carry coin, and the players get that and can trade it with each other, and that at least makes sense in character. that you might pay the healer for healing you or whatever, or split the
Mm.
treasure with the other people who worked with you. At least it's something that is in character. Um, and so this created a whole system around gathering up coin, but everything that you want to be rewarded for has to carry coin, including wolves. Uh, it just carries coin in that family of games, the sort of uh, Nero family of games, um, and um, then sort of this whole culture develops around uh, the players optimizing the cost benefit of turning cash into experience points, because the game is supporting simultaneously new players who for whom a modest amount of coin
Mhm.
might be a lot of experience points, and very experienced players who've been playing the same character since the beginning of LARPing, um, who need vast scad hordes of
Mhm.
treasure to gain anything. There's a whole sliding scale thing here that I don't want to try to explain, but it's experience points is close enough. Um, and so it's a fascinating piece of culture that um, you get the experienced players like
Mhm.
pooling all their wealth at the end of the weekend, maybe just within their team or whatever, to make sure that they buy as much experience as they reasonably can for the new kids, and then if there's anything left over, buy themselves some extra XP. Um,
That's quite fascinating. I've never done a Boffer LARP, so I'm unfamiliar with the way that that works.
so I've been LARPing in the Atlanta area since '96. I've been around the block a bit. I haven't played everything that's in the region, not by a real long shot. Um, but I worked on a game that was a spin-off of Nero called the Wildlands campaign. It used the Nero rules, but in a uh, much stingier way. It was intended to be a really dire, bleak campaign. Um, and so money becomes really, really important, and the things that are going on with money in that are real interesting, because money is still a major source of experience points, but you've also got to well, and the game develops the specific fiction that a coin is valuable because it holds a little bit of magic. You can turn that little bit of magic into inspiration experience points if you take the right amount of coinage to a particular in-game location, this juncture, and give it to the spirit there. So you're gaining experience points not only at the end of the event but during the event. uh, but you also need to keep your gear in working order, and the force of chaos in the world is constantly eroding your gear very, very quickly. So you might need to
Right.
buy a new sword every single event. And God help you if you wear actual physical armor, because when it takes damage, it costs money to repair it. If you are an alchemist and you throw clay pots full of harmful chemicals, you have learned to throw money at your enemies to make them die, because that money is gone. Maybe you're turning a profit. Who knows? So it became a really key part of the game, to sort of manage your money. And because of this, the game could afford to hand out lots and lots of coinage, because it was very much gonna go away in an eye blink. Um, but none of this has sort of affected what D&D has done. But I've always found it really interesting to think about how people engage with um, gold for XP, both in tabletop and in LARP environments. Uh, It hasn't been the majority of what I've played,
Interesting.
though it has
Uh,
been a fair bit of what I've run.
the reason why I'm so my favorite edition is basic D&D, and the thing is that it causes the gold for XP idea causes such a different mindset in play from compared to modern systems.
For sure.
And I mean, I can say this when we get to, but we're basically about to go into second edition, where some more modern ideas come through, kind of for the first time. Is there anything else you want to say about first edition other than the whacked examples that he? Let me read one. Just for our audience, let's read one of the examples he gives on page 85. He's talking about how to determine. Uh, how much experience to give. So here's an example. A 10-headed Hydra has 80 hit points, so it has a BXPV of 900 and an XP/HP total of 880 and an SAXPB for multiple attacks of 450 for a total of 2230 XP. Meanwhile, a giant centipede with only 2 hit points has a BXPV of 5 and an XP/HP total of 2 and an EAXPA for poison of 25, totaling a mere 32 XP for that creature. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, like in short, all I can say is, how can all of this number crunching be worthwhile?
Well,
Oh my god.
what's really interesting is when you look at the experience point value for monsters, when you actually look at this, the the one hit dice monster is still a basic XP of 10. It's the same as it has been since Zero Edition. And then he has this hit points, XP per hit points and XP special ability. All of that stuff was reduced down to one calculation in the previous editions. If it had a special ability, you added
Hmm.
10. That was your calculation, or you added, 12 or whatever. I mean, there was a calculation, but it was based on the hit dice and how many special abilities they had, and that was it. This thing is like you said, I've got to pull out my 1040, tax form to try to figure out how many XP I'm supposed to be awarding, if I even estimate that the players have earned the full XP. That's just the here's what the creature would be worth. That's not even the calculation of here's what I think I'm going to give them based on whether they did not deviate from the norm of what I think that character should be doing, or whether they had a lot of aberrant behavior and so I rate them as poor. Like it's like it just it's amazing. It's amazing. And it makes me wonder what were the hijinks that so here's the thing, right? So this is I'm kind of have mixed feelings about this because this is the natural end. This is the logical conclusion to gold for XP systems, because all of those things I mentioned earlier, where you have to strategically plan and you have to get together with your group and try to figure out how to thwart the referee and how to get around their challenges, not meet them head on. That's a lot of mental work for the referee, and it's a lot of mental work for the players. And if that's the sport of the game, like that's the goal of the game, is to get that XP without having to meet the challenges head on by finding a witty way to get around them, then of course the logical conclusion is that the referee, or DM in this case, is going to respond by finding ways to not give full credit for that activity, right? Oh, well, yeah, you had the
Right.
great plan, but your great plan didn't take into account the fact that your rogue is chaotic, or your thief at this point was chaotic. Or, well, you had that great plan and it all worked except you brought an assassin along. Or, well, you hired too many hirelings. And, like all of these reasons why you didn't play your class character to the best of your abilities.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly know the feeling of my one paltry mortal intelligence against the combined fury of six people who are each individually smarter than
Yeah.
me. I live with that,
Yeah,
right?
hey, I'm right there
Uh,
with you,
just
man. I mean, it's, and remember back then, some of these groups were like 10 people big. It wasn't just of four people. It
yeah,
was, here's my 10 best friends. We're in a party.
yep.
So, I mean,
So
yeah.
so I can understand that, but at the same time, um, I guess I just say I do not miss a highly adversarial
Hmm.
model. I do not miss that.
Yeah. I don't either. And that's the other thing that ends up happening, right? Is that's the other side of the logical conclusion is yes, you get all these hijinks, and yes, you do get some bad behaviors from players, right? For the example he gave, the thief stealing out of the party's gold stores, like, some people would consider that bad behavior and some wouldn't, right? Like he even
Right.
suggests it as a course of action for that a chance for that rogue, that thief in the part of the thieves guild to get more XP for that particular adventuring day. But, you know, he sets that as, that's part of the thing, right? Like for me, I have this dissonance because if the thief's job if playing the thief as the highest ideal of what the thief class represents means that you're pickpocketing everything, stealing things from the other party members as much as possible, and therefore earning XP at a higher rate because you got more gold. If that's the highest ideal, I don't know how that party can survive for very long without having a lot of tension within that group. And that leads me to the idea of that's exactly what the referee wanted, right? Because that means they're less likely to make a good strategy and meet that challenge. They're more likely to get tripped up on something because they weren't working well together, and so they don't get as much of the gold, and they that's part of putting the roadblocks in front of those players so that they mess up and don't get full XP. Like that's part of it. And
I think
yeah,
that's very likely to be exactly what he was benefiting from, though I have to imagine that some of it was more instinctive than um, I don't know, than conscious, than premeditated is what word I'm looking
sure.
for. Um,
Well, and so much of play is colored by the actual behavior of the players themselves, right? Like if you have a player playing a thief who's constantly pickpocketing everybody, but they're just as what's the word? Jovial about it. They're just as happy when they get caught as they are when they don't. You know what I mean? Like if you go to the tavern and they're going around trying to pickpocket everybody, they're obviously going to
sure,
fail at some point. I mean, heck, in first edition, you didn't have a very high pickpocket chance until you got up to really high levels anyway. But if the player that's playing that thief is fun about it and not a jerk
sure,
about it, I could see where that behavior could be supported, right? Like because the whole
sure.
group can have fun. Oh, the thief is going to go pickpocket again. Let me see if I can distract someone over here so that he has, a better chance of actually succeeding and playing into that and having a good time with it versus, the occasional person that you get who's playing a thief who knows exactly how to work everything and keeps pickpocketing the other players. Like that's a
Yep.
problem, right? Depending on the attitude, right? So I can kind of see both sides, but I don't know. I remember those days, and when when you if you played in a group that had a couple of people with the sort of very very selfish attitudes, man, it was tough. It was
So
really hard.
in in the first game I ran that had a uh, you know multiplayer setup as opposed to I'm running one running for one player who's controlling a bunch of characters in a very JRPG kind of way. Uh, the first game I ran like that, the party rogue was uh, much more sort of the man with a plan. Like he was a player who was much more prepared to be sort of vocal and out there, and he was much more the Nate Ford than the backstabbing scumbag, um, and so that created a much better experience. Now I'm talking about second edition, and I'm talking about Birthright, where he was literally a
Mhm.
king.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
anyway,
Oh, man. So do you want to move on to
um,
second?
so sure, let's do second. It's a big step forward in just the idea of what all this stuff can be and can do. Um, so
I mean, the advice in the DMG, I know there's stuff in the player's handbook too, but in the DMG it says um, awarding experience points is one of the DM's most difficult jobs.
yeah, I see that. I see that. That's definitely true. But what I find so cool about this is, first of all, that it's starting to recognize, even if it's not using those words, the idea of a table contract, the idea that it's everyone's job to contribute to the table having fun. I mean, like looking under constant goals. Item two: did the player make the game fun for others or make fun at their expense? The second is not really deserving of any reward. And yeah, you're probably going to have a lot of conflict at the table if you have to straight up tell someone, um, "Hey, you had fun at everyone else's expense tonight. I'm pulling your XP reward." Like, no. Uh, but at the same time, that's behavior that needs to get you know needs to get put in its place,
Yeah,
right?
can I say something about that? So here's the thing. I have two thoughts about that. Um, Man, that's not fun if you just played a whole session and you don't get any XP. So, but I mean, but if you were a total, you know, jack off, then whatever. But here's the thing, that can work because not every character is expected to level up at the same time.
Oh, for sure,
And
for sure.
that's true of the previous editions too, where because the amount of XP that you needed in order to gain advancement was different, you could actually penalize someone by taking XP away or not giving them the appropriate. So, we talked about how the way it's written in the 1E PHB and DMG, it makes it sound so onerous, like you're doing all this tax form, and then you can basically just decide that the character wasn't played to your approval and not give that character the XP or the whole XP amount, the full XP award. The reason that works as a sort of punishment though is because if you might not need, not everybody is expected to level at the same time. So you might need 300 experience to get to the next level. And if you behave badly and the DM says, "All right, I'm taking 50 experience from you." You can actually go backwards in experience, and it matters because your leveling is not going to be the same as the other people anyway. So so in third edition when they equal everything out and everybody levels at the same rate, you can't really, as a DM, take away 50 experience points from somebody because that would mean that then everybody else levels except this person.
Uh, we're gonna have to talk about that because that just happens because experience points don't stay even for very long in third. If they start out even, they're awarded evenly. They don't stay there. But we're jumping ahead of ourselves.
Yes, we are.
Um,
Sorry. I'm
now,
cutting off your second edition, so I will let you talk.
I'm well, like your points are good ones. It's just that uh, third edition doesn't wind up being the solution,
Yeah,
or even the same set of
right,
problems. Um,
right.
so, like these days, I think that most received wisdom would say, um, denying someone XP and having that end of session confrontation of, hey, you're a real jerk tonight. You don't get any XP. That is not going to create a growth moment. It's not going to help, um, and that is very much about sort of putting the GM above the players, and that's not something that uh, we really teach anymore.
Mhm.
But it's really important to see how this represents a step forward from first edition and how it's a softening of the whole thinking um, around good player behavior, good GM behavior, and so on. Um, Now, the other uh, big step forward here is in variable goals. Uh, uh, Under this header, we talk about story goals and group rewards. Well, story goals means that completing a quest could be a payday of
Mhm.
XP all by itself
Right.
because you hit the goal, and um, not for monsters killed or gold seized. Um, and
Can I just I do want to I want to call out something that I laugh at every time, and because I'm easily entertained. But the story goals says story goals are objectives the DM sets up for an adventure. Rescue the prince. Okay. Drive away a band of marauding orcs. Okay. Cleanse the haunted castle. Got it. Find the assassin of the late queen. Okay. Recover the lost Gee Whiz wand.
hey, man, writers got to entertain themselves in a book this
I
size.
love it.
You know
I
what I
love it.
mean?
I laugh every time.
Uh, but I don't think there's a ton of guidance for what how much experience a story goal might be. If it's here,
Yeah,
I think I'm missing it.
well,
Um,
yeah, I mean,
I think it's there in published adventures,
yeah,
right?
I think
But
so.
I think the
Yeah.
DMG doesn't tell
Well,
you.
and because all it says really is assign experience points based on the difficulty if they accomplish the goal. Um,
Yeah,
and that's not really helpful. But I think sort of is it in the next section? Because in the next section, it talks about, well, there's two categories. There's group awards and then there's individual awards. And so I think the idea is
right.
the story goals would be part of the group awards, and it once again still kind of hedges on how to get like they're really trying. I mean, this is just so different from what the game was before. Talking about story awards
Oh
and
yeah.
group goals and I mean, I don't know. I feel like they had a hard time. They do give some advice. The story award should not be greater than the experience points that can be earned defeating the monsters encountered during the adventure. So if the DM knows there are roughly 1,200 experience points worth of monsters, the story award should not exceed that. In other words, it's trying to make it equal what the challenge is. You have a challenge of monsters and going through the adventure, and then the award at the end shouldn't be more than what you would have earned. In other words, you're not going to more than double what the experience of the monsters would be. So, but
Yep.
that's not,
But at the
that's
same
just a
time,
very
like,
basic, like, there's no other real guidelines in here.
yep. But I think that I would see this as the precursor to milestone
Yeah.
XP.
Yeah.
Uh, in a pretty significant way. Now, it's also definitely the um, the precursor to, if the PCs complete this side quest, uh, give them this small XP bonus that you see in a lot of
Mhm.
low-level
Mhm.
published adventures uh, for whatever reason, and I think it's more open to interpretation. Uh, I don't think I've ever seen an adventure above about fourth level continue to hand out those uh, sort of small
Right.
hits of experience points for completing minor
They
goals.
they become
Um,
inconsequential if you don't do them all the time.
Well, and I mean, they could scale up and stay consequential, right? But
Mhm. But I mean, just traditionally they don't though. They just stay
right,
at 50 or 100, and it's not
and that's
really,
sort of especially striking in Horde of the Dragon Queen in fifth edition, where it, for the first adventure or two, it absolutely does that, and then it just stops dead. It just does not do that even one more time throughout all of Horde or Rise. Um, but that's something that has sort of played oddly to me for years. Anyway, back to second edition.
bring that
I
back up
sure
when we get
will.
to 5th edition because I have
Uh,
some stuff to say about
so
that,
once
yeah.
again, we have creature experience point values based on hit dice, and then a big old table of hit dice value modifiers, which is your
Mhm.
combination of your uh, uh, SAXPB and EAXPA uh,
Right, right,
bonuses, and these are just adjustments directly to its effective hit dice for purposes of
right.
um, this XP table. Um,
Which makes it not a calculation. Now it's just, oh wait, this creature has poison. Oh, that's a
right,
+2. So it's 4 hit dice +2, so it's a 6. Oh, it's 420
right,
XP.
and
No problem. Like that's just a lookup
yeah,
table.
it's
It's
much
not a
faster,
calculation.
and it is really very clearly just an eye blink. Is a strict terminology change away from being a challenge rating.
Mhm.
Like
Yes,
no
for
two ways
sure.
about it.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. I mean, they could have
Yep.
said challenge rating and it would be the same.
Um, So then we get into the individual experience awards, which is an optional rule, um, which I there's sort of one set for um, somewhat more like player behavior, and one set for more character behavior. Um, so player has a clever idea, player has an idea that saves the party. Well, okay, that's this is the kind of thing that we mostly don't do anymore because it runs counter to
Mhm.
characterization for a lot of characters. If
Right.
you're playing, I don't, I'm just going to say like maybe Grog Strongjaw, some sort of Goliath barbarian, just tossing out names, could be anybody. Um, having a clever idea that
Just made that up right on
look,
the
I'm
spot,
very
huh?
good at gaming, extremely good. Um, so having a clever idea that saves the party is something Travis can do extraordinarily well, and Grog
Mhm.
not so good, not the very best, right? And
Right.
and in general, we want to support characterization um, over um, that kind of meta thinking. Uh,
Mhm.
even though this is clearly still a table that's intended to support um, you're thinking about the game in a way for the whole game to be fun, and I do appreciate that.
Right.
Uh,
And the thing is, though, this table, though, that you're referencing, it's the player, not the
yeah,
PC. So it's the player
yeah,
has a good idea. The player saves the
right,
party. The player role plays their character well. The player encourages other players. Like, so you're right that we tend to shy away from forcing or enforcing a sort of idea on a person about how their PC should be played. But these specifically on this particular little table are about the player encouraging others and encouraging smart thinking at the table, regardless of whether their character, their PC, is able to do the
yeah,
same, which in a way it's inviting, metagaming and breaking the fourth wall and doing all that stuff, but saying, oh, it's okay because it's an encouragement, it's not a detriment
right.
to the
And
game.
if you're
And that's also like a first. I mean,
yeah,
this is breaking new
yeah,
territory
for
all
sure.
over.
And if you're having a conversation, sort of a sidebar with another player, and you feed them your cool idea, and it creates fun for everyone, even if your character wouldn't
Hmm.
have that idea. Okay, like this is saying, fine, run with it. please just make the game more fun.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then you have your individual class awards, which is much more about character behavior, um, and it's very focused on go do that thing your class is good at doing and behave within your
Mhm.
class's idiom. Um, so warriors uh, get uh, an XP boost per hit die of creature defeated. Um, I mean, we don't talk about the fact that this is saying, uh, here have an extra, um, percentage bonus to all your received XP from monsters, but that's what it's saying.
Mhm.
Um,
And it's per level of the warrior. So if you're a 5th level warrior
right,
and you're defeating and your party just defeated 3 5 hit die creatures,
right,
you're getting 10 XP times
yep,
5 for each creature, so 50. And I said you did 5 creatures, so now you're at 250 per
yeah,
level. So if you're 5th level, you just got 250 times
uh huh.
5. You just got 1250 XP
That's
extra. And you're 5th level. That's a good amount of
I
XP.
I really question whether this table was used. Like, I know I didn't use it. I really question how much other GMs used it because,
Yeah,
oh boy, is that some giddy up in the XP. Oh boy.
right.
So,
Well, and look, the priest gets 100 XP per successful use of a granted power. That basically means, spells.
I guess it means that. Probably it means that. Who knows?
I mean, right? Or a wizard gets XP for casting spells to overcome foes or problems, 50 XP per spell
Yeah,
level.
that's
That's not as extreme as what the warrior gets, but I mean,
right.
And look, rogue per successful use of a special ability, 200 XP. And remember, this is over and above the other XP
Right.
that's being earned. This table is probably the closest in this XP section to the Gygaxian one,
Yeah.
1E table where he talks about, well, here's how a rogue should really act or a thief, and here's how a warrior should act, and here's how, um, and this is basically that carried over a little bit.
So my wife tells a story about when she was playing a second edition game. This is obviously many moons ago now. Um, and she was playing I think a high elf with an intelligence of 19, a wizard, and
Hmm.
the means for researching new spells was not well understood by player or GM, and
Hmm.
so Rabbit's character gained something like 9 levels essentially immediately by learning spells and thus gaining access to new spells, and that caused them to learn new spells, which gained access to new
Right,
spells, and it was a like just a self-propagating loop, and
right.
like it took levels and levels and levels until that ran out.
Wow.
Right? Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, but the game was apparently so over the top that it just didn't really
It
matter.
was par for the course.
Yeah. Um, so so yeah, I mean that's it. It's an interesting um, sort of set of ideas. The individual class awards really makes me think of Powered by the Apocalypse games and the things that where you
Hmm.
get to you know um, check XP if you do this set of things, right? Uh, that vary by playbook.
Hmm.
Um, so I just think
Yeah,
that's super
yeah.
interesting. Um, and we still have training rules in here, and second edition still
But
uses
they note that
the
they're optional,
oh yeah, they're
the
optional.
training. Yeah.
Uh, second edition was really big into sort of marking off whole sections of rules as being optional
Hmm. Hmm.
because they're like in the intro to the DMG, um, Zeb Cook is very, very clear that there's not going to be continuity of experience from one table to another. It's not going to be the same game. And I think that was surprising at the time, and it was the last edition that felt that way for a good long while, because third and fourth were very committed to continuity of experience, and then fifth, and one of the reasons people compare fifth to second edition a lot is that there's no expectation of continuity of experience, which means they're putting a lot fewer binding rules on things. I just think that's kind of fascinating all by itself. I think it's something we, as a community, probably don't talk about enough.
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably right.
But yeah, that pretty much closes us out on second edition.
Well, so does second edition give
think,
gold per XP? Or XP per gold?
So it does to the rogue. Rogue, per gold piece value of treasure obtained,
right.
2 experience points.
2 experience per gold
piece.
Does it give everyone else 1? I was looking for it because I honestly can't remember.
No, I don't think it does. No, I think that's it. I think that that extra XP is intended to be your boost comparable to the warrior skill bonus.
So this is the first edition where you did not receive, unless you were a thief, you did not receive gold. You don't receive XP for gold. Everyone didn't receive XP for gold.
It's definitely. Oh, here we go. The story award should give a character no more than 1/10 of the experience points he needs to advance a level. There you go. So there is some guidance there, but no, I don't know that there is any concept of gold for XP.
Yeah, I just couldn't.
Okay. As an option, the DM can award XP for the cash value of non-magical treasures. 1 XP can be given per gold piece or equivalent found. This is optional on a blue background. However, overuse of this option can increase the tendency to give out too much treasure in the campaign.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is this is sort of its last gasp as a rules concept. It is cordoned off in optional rules.
One last thing, as progressive as it is, it also mentions that in order to earn XP, there should be significant danger. That no character should get experience for using powers on a helpless victim. The fighter shouldn't get experience for the example it uses, clubbing a shackled orc. And the mage doesn't get experience for casting a house cleaning cantrip. So you can't sit at home and clean your house all day. It says the thief does gain experience for opening the lock on a merchant's counting house because it might be trapped or magical alarms might be triggered. And an experience point should not be awarded when a player is being abusive to others in the group. So, it's trying really hard to give guidelines to basically give examples and guidelines for the don't be a dick rule, which is good. But it also says, you know what, it was needed.
That certainly does suggest that in big shiny words, yeah. So that's all for us this evening, folks. I'm Brenda Stoddard, and my learned associate is Sam Dillon.
Thank you for listening, and we hope that you enjoyed our conversation, including all of our amazing tangents. And we hope to hear feedback from you, and we hope that you're enjoying it enough to listen next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.